Hey, today we're going to talk about the metaverse. The next version of the internet, you'll feel like you're by yourself, peering through a little window, making eye contact with avatars that you can wipe the sweat off of. But I'm genuinely optimistic about high fees. Everything we do online today, work, play, shop, is going to be at a grid of faces on a screen. But this isn't the end of the line. It doesn't fully exist yet. There's a lot that needs to get built. Horizon is humbling, but enough with the fun and games. I figured, let's make this special.
March 25th, 2014. Mark Zuckerberg buys Oculus VR for $2 billion, double what he paid for Instagram just 2 years earlier. Zuckerberg visited Oculus in January, tried a demo, and within 3 days, made an offer to buy the company. No lengthy deliberation or market research needed. He put on the headset, experienced it, and wrote the check. Zuckerberg happens to be one of the people who can use VR without getting sick from motion sickness. For him, it was pure magic. He felt it instantly and assumed the rest of the world would too. Another reason he wanted to buy the company was control. Facebook had nearly 3 billion users and was one of the most visited websites on the internet. But it lived on Apple's iPhone and on Google's Android. Every policy update or privacy change decision that was made in a Cupertino conference room could gut Zuck's business without warning. And in 2021, that's exactly what happened. Apple rolled out App Tracking Transparency, a simple pop-up asking iPhone users if apps could track them across the web. Most, including myself, say no. Meta confirmed that this app tracking transparency change would cost it approximately $10 billion in 2022 revenue alone. $10 billion from one tiny little pop-up. Zuck hated being under someone else's control. Microsoft had Windows, Google had Android, and Apple had iOS. What he really wanted was to build his own platform. October 28th, 2021. Facebook rebrands itself as Meta.
To reflect who we are and what we hope to build, I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta.
From now on, the company will be Metaverse first, not Facebook first. The timing is also interesting. Just days before the announcement, the Facebook papers had landed. Thousands of internal documents suggesting the company knew its platforms caused widespread harm and chose profit over people. It was the largest scandal in the company's history, well, at the time at least. And Zuckerberg had big plans.
Our North Star is that, by the end of the decade, we hope to basically get to around 1 billion people in the metaverse doing hundreds of dollars of commerce each, buying digital goods, digital content, different things to express themselves. So whether that's clothing for their avatar or different digital goods for their virtual home or things to decorate their virtual conference room.
He poured billions into Reality Labs, Meta's VR division. The company known for social media was now making hardware. At the time, the Oculus had about 80% market share in VR, especially due to gaming. It wasn't a huge market, but if you looked at Steam charts, they were winning it. Now, if you watch my other video on Xbox One, you'll remember they made the same mistake of not understanding their audience and trying to go after a market they had no business trying to get into. In 2013, Microsoft launched the Xbox One, and then leadership decided, gaming wasn't enough. Let's make it an all-in-one entertainment hub, the living room computer. People will pay $4.99 for this thing to stream Netflix. Well, Microsoft learned the hard way that no, they won't. Zuckerberg had the VR market share, and he said, gaming isn't enough, let's go bigger. Fun fact, a lot of former Xbox employees jumped ship and actually worked at Meta's RL division. Zuckerberg wanted work meetings, social spaces, commerce, the entire internet rebuilt in 3D. It's the same mistake, just at a much larger scale. Take a product people already love and decide it's not ambitious enough. Move fast and break things built Facebook. But this wasn't software anymore. You don't move fast with hardware. You build it, you ship it, and if it doesn't work, it just sits there. From the outside, the warnings were already coming in. Apple CEO Tim Cook pushed back publicly. He said most people didn't even know what the metaverse is, and most importantly, they don't want to live their entire lives inside one. Horizon Worlds, the flagship product meant to connect people and provide a place for app makers to develop third-party apps on, just like iOS or Android. What people actually got was a ghost town. Avatars with no legs, a world that looked worse than a 2008 Wii game, virtual corporate meeting rooms that felt like someone had rendered a PowerPoint in 3D and called it the future, empty plazas and billboards advertising events that nobody came to. Meta's own Super Bowl marketing push, a dedicated world called Questies, sat virtually empty. Horizon struggles to hold 200,000 monthly active users. An empty world is a sad world. 85% of those users were gaming, around 10% was browsing, and not just browsing but private browsing. You go ahead and figure out what someone would be doing private browsing on a VR headset. And that other 5% was for everything else. Fitness apps, concerts, Horizon Worlds, and that 5% was what leadership had actually built this all for. They didn't want Meta to be a gaming company. They wanted grandparents video calling grandkids in virtual living rooms, workers collaborating in digital offices, people attending concerts, shopping, socializing, all inside a Meta-owned universe. But they tried to skip straight to the destination without building the road. And VR does have limits. It's not something you strap on and walk around in public. And people can only wear a headset for so long. Some users experience nausea, disorientation, or headaches just after a few minutes. The technology will likely never reach mobile, console, or PC adoption levels. Never mind the cost. The human vestibular system isn't designed for extended VR. And yet, Meta had no P&L cost discipline. None. Reality Labs was pitched internally as the most heavily funded startup in the world. Nobody in the company was optimizing for any losses or margins. The directive was simple: get it out there, figure it out, and build a business model later. In a software company, sure, that approach can work. Ship fast, break things, iterate, grow. The typical Meta principles. Hardware doesn't work like that. You can't really iterate with hardware. If it doesn't sell, it sits on shelves. September 2022, an internal memo leaks, and it's from Vishal Shah, Meta's VP of the Metaverse. For many of us, we don't spend that much time in Horizon, and our dogfooding dashboards show this pretty clearly. Why is that? Why don't we love the product we've built? So much that we use it all the time. The simple truth is, if we don't love it, how can we expect our users to love it? 2 weeks go by, and employees still hadn't logged in enough. So Shah sent another memo. Everyone in this organization should make it their mission to fall in love with Horizon Worlds. You can't do that without using it. Get in there. Organize times to do it with your colleagues or friends. A VP at one of the largest technology companies on Earth, spending billions of dollars per quarter on this product, had to beg his own team to use it once a week. When begging didn't work, he threatened to hold managers accountable for their team's usage numbers. Horizon Worlds became a chore and a checkbox on an employee performance review. One former employee who worked at Meta described dogfooding Horizon Worlds. On one occasion, he joined a virtual basketball game, and within minutes, another user lured the employee to a bathroom where a group of users were waiting. Then they all attempted to simulate an essay on his avatar. The experience was filled with trolls and people with nothing but time trying to get reactions. It was a digital version of the worst comment section you've ever seen. Except you were inside it, wearing it on your face. This was the product. This was the future of human connection. Well, according to Zuck. August 16th, 2022. Zuckerberg posts a selfie from inside Horizon Worlds. His avatar stands in front of pixelated digital recreations of the Eiffel Tower and the Sagrada Familia, celebrating the platform's European launch. And it looks bad. Not just bad, but goofy. Within hours, the internet does what it always does. It rips it apart. The backlash was so bad that within days, Zuckerberg posted an upgraded version of his avatar, claiming that, hey, that first picture was just a quick, unpolished snap, not the final version. Well, people looked at the new version and it was just as bad. Horizon Worlds avatars had no lower bodies, just floating torsos. Engineers said animating convincing legs in real time was too demanding for the hardware. But at the 2022 Connect keynote, Zuckerberg unveiled a demo. His avatar jumped and kicked. The crowd actually applauded. Days later, though, it emerged that the entire sequence had been pre-rendered using motion capture animation, a fake demo staged to solve a PR embarrassment. Then, in December, John Carmack, legendary game developer and the architect of Oculus's technology, resigns. And he doesn't hide his true feelings when he resigns either, saying, "We have a ridiculous amount of people and resources, but we constantly self-sabotage and squander effort. There is no way to sugarcoat this. I think our organization is operating at half the effectiveness that would make me happy." His resignation would be a sign of things to come. While Meta was constructing virtual corporate boardrooms, the metaverse was actually thriving, just not for Zuckerberg. Fortnite was making millions and even staged live events and concerts. They had a Travis Scott concert that 12 million people attended. Scott, appearing as a 200-foot tall giant, morphs into a robot, he performs underwater, he performs in outer space. The stage physically transforms around the audience every 60 seconds. At one point, the entire world turns upside down and players float through clouds made of music. A year later, Ariana Grande performed in Fortnite. A butterfly carried her across the sky. Players traveled through different dimensions built around her music catalog. 78 million people attended across 5 shows. You can't do that in real life. That's the point. Meanwhile, over in Roblox, if you put aside their awful PDF problems, teenage developers were making millions of dollars building games inside a platform. The top Roblox creators were earning more money annually than most architects, lawyers, and even engineers. Kids weren't being dragged into a digital world, they were choosing it over reality because it gave them creative power, community, and more importantly, income. Minecraft too, they had been running virtual worlds and economies for over a decade. The metaverse didn't fail, it was already here technically. Zuckerberg just looked at it and decided it didn't count, because in his version, it couldn't just be games. It had to be everything else. And in trying to build something that could do everything, he missed the thing people were already doing, and built the version nobody wanted. Zuckerberg's pitch for the metaverse was built on freedom from anyone else's rules.
We've also learned what it is like to build for other platforms. And living under their rules has profoundly shaped my views on the tech industry.
He especially didn't like Apple's 30% App Store cut. But when Meta launched its own virtual marketplace, it announced a 47.5% cut on virtual asset sales.
Mark Zuckerberg saw years ago Apple and Google were able to build their own walled gardens, icing him out, and he doesn't want that to happen again. So he's building his own walled garden. Forget about all the messaging about making it cheap and accessible. That's not what they're doing. They're making it expensive and inaccessible.
The man who spent years attacking Apple's 30% fee built a platform charging 47.5%. Then there's the experience itself. To use Horizon Worlds, you had to put on a headset, charge it, wait for it to boot up, navigate the menus, find a world, and then load in. And do it on a limited time because most people would get sick. And for those that didn't, they had to deal with the short battery life on the headsets. Only to find empty worlds with some cartoonish avatars. Meta did try to fix that. Engineers experimented with realistic avatars, faces that looked like actual humans. But realistic 3D human faces run headfirst into what researchers call the uncanny valley. The psychological phenomenon where something looks almost but not quite human-like, and the result is super weird. Test users found the realistic avatars creepy. So, back to the cartoons. And inside the company, even the people building Horizon weren't really using it. They just kept their heads down and did the work. When your job depends on the metaverse being the future, you go along with it. You don't ask tough questions. $80 billion. That's the number. $80 billion in losses just from Reality Labs alone. That's more than Disney paid for Marvel, Star Wars, and Pixar combined. Meta stock lost more than 2/3 of its value in 2022, the worst single year for any company that size in market history. Investors and market analysts on Wall Street begged Zuckerberg to just can the whole thing completely.
Headline in the Wall Street Journal today has the metaverse quickly turning into the metaverse.
So much hype being poured down this, weird dystopian sci-fi vision, which no one actually wants, is, I don't know, just kind of sad. It's lame.
This metaverse narrative would have you believe the trillion-dollar future is we're all going to want to cover our faces with interactive screens and work in the metaverse. No thanks.
Zuckerberg would then call for the year of efficiency. Translation, the bill came due. Then in November 2022, a different future arrived. OpenAI launches ChatGPT. Within 5 days, 1 million users. Within 2 months, the fastest growing consumer application in history. And within a year, everyone in Silicon Valley and Wall Street had been consumed by AI. Gradually, the word metaverse began quietly disappearing from Meta's earning calls. Instead, new buzzwords replaced it like llama, AI studio, and generative AI. This was classic Zuckerberg. If you rewind to 2012, he realized Facebook was behind on mobile. So he bought Instagram for $1 billion, then WhatsApp for $19 billion, and he caught up fast. In an internal 2008 email, he wrote, "It is better to buy than to compete." So when AI arrived and Meta was late, again, he did what he always does. He tried to buy his way in.
Zuckerberg's war on talent is even more aggressive, even bigger than we thought it was. It says that Zuck has upped the number of researchers poached to 11, coming from the buzziest and earliest AI native firms, OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepMind.
Zuckerberg is now spending hundreds of millions of dollars assembling a Super Friends team of AI researchers just to catch up. And at the time of this recording, Meta's AI models are still behind Anthropic, OpenAI, and even Google. It's not slowing him down though. He's committed tens of billions more to winning the race. And if you're planning to spend that kind of money on your AI dreams, some things gotta go. March 18th, 2026. No big event or keynote address, just a blog post. Meta says Horizon Worlds is coming off the Quest Store. The thing they spent years pushing as the future is quietly pushed to the side. And for a hot minute, it looks like that's it. Then, about a day later, it changes. Meta CTO Andrew Bosworth would announce on Instagram that existing games will remain available, quote, for the foreseeable future. A small group of hardcore users, gamers really, write in saying they're heartbroken. So it survives, barely. When Horizon was finally pushed out of the Quest storefront, those hardcore users celebrated, because for years it sat there, promoted and unavoidable, while the reason people actually bought the headset, games, got pushed down the page. Meta had been forcing a product its own users didn't want, but instead of doubling down on games, they cut them. Sanzaru Games, makers of Asgard's Wrath 2, which is considered one of the best VR RPGs ever made, was shut down. Armature Studios, makers of the Resident Evil 4 VR edition, and also one of the highest rated games on Quest, well, they were shut down too. Twisted Pixel Games had just released a popular Deadpool game that was shut down soon after the game launched. And Camouflage, makers of Batman Arkham Shadow, wasn't shut down, yet they were gutted. Other game studios were shut down or cut. Also cut was Meta Horizon Managed Services, which was also Meta for Work, which, believe it or not, was their attempt to get businesses to use the headset as a work product like a tablet or a computer. That entire business division was completely shut down. Not just because Horizon Worlds or the RL business failed. No, the company needed to make the cuts to feed its next big bet, its hungry beast, the AI division.
Meta laid off 1,500 workers from its Reality Labs division last week as it moves away from its vision for a future in the metaverse and funnels billions into AI.
For better or for worse, Mark Zuckerberg had one genuinely world-changing idea: Facebook. Everything since is complicated. Instagram and WhatsApp were smart purchases. But the Facebook phone was a failure. He launched dating to take on Tinder. He even tried getting into crypto with Libra. Remember that? Don't worry, most people forgot about it too. Then he flushed away $80 billion on VR. And now he's pouring hundreds of billions chasing AI. Zuckerberg is lucky that Facebook prints money, for now, because his one great idea has afforded him to fund his next shiny toy. At Harvard in 2017, he said the idea of a single eureka moment is a lie, that you don't know what you're building until you're already building it. It's a good way to think about startups. It's also a convenient way to keep going, Because if Facebook was the lightning strike, then everything since starts to look like an attempt to get hit again. Zuckerberg hasn't given up on owning a platform. Meta still has Ray-Ban glasses, something you can wear out in public and not look like a complete dork. And what does he want them to do? Well, he wants them to be your friend.
There's the stat that I always think is crazy. The average American, I think it's fewer than 3 friends.
In 2025, he talked about the loneliness gap, people having fewer friends that they want, and suggested that, hey, AI could be your friend. That's right, an AI system that understands you and talks to you, knows you like your Facebook feed already does. The same company that built the algorithm shaping your attention, now offering friendship through it. The glasses are the delivery system, just like he hoped the VR headsets would be, and instead of cartoon avatars, it's the AI companions who are now the product, all funded by that same cash cow, Facebook. While Meta was trying to build the metaverse, people were already in one, whether it was Fortnite, Roblox, or Minecraft. Zuckerberg looked at all that and decided it wasn't enough, because in his version, it had to be something that could do everything: work, social, commerce, the entire internet. And in trying to build something that could do everything, he built something that nobody wanted. He wanted to escape Apple's walled garden, so he wasted $80 billion building one of his own. The most significant thing Mark Zuckerberg ever built was a college website in 2004, and every billion spent since has been the world's most expensive attempt to prove he's not a one-trick pony.